The sun of Ravenine was never gentle. It burned like a white fire in the sky, filling the air with heat and dust. Elias walked slowly across the dry land, his feet heavy, his throat empty, and his rover broken behind him. He had been traveling alone for 3 days, trying to reach a small outpost where he could find help. But now the desert felt endless, and the silence around him sounded almost alive. As Elias looked ahead, he saw something strange near an old dried-out well. It looked like a shape, small and shaking, sitting on the ground. At first, he thought it was just a pile of cloth blown by the wind. But when he came closer, he saw an old alien woman, thin like a shadow, her skin silver and full of cracks like dry earth. She had large eyes, glowing faint blue, but they seemed tired. She looked at Elias without fear, without surprise, as if she had been waiting for him. Elias stopped, confused. He had never seen her kind before, but she looked weak, maybe dying. And Elias felt something inside him, a simple human feeling, telling him he could not leave her alone. He opened his small water container, his last bottle, the only thing keeping him alive. He hesitated for a second, thinking of the long night waiting for him, but the old woman's cracked lips shook silently, like she had no strength left to ask for help. Elias knelt beside her and slowly offered the water. The woman looked at him carefully, her eyes deep and ancient. Then, with shaking hands, she took a small sip. The blue glow in her eyes grew brighter for a moment. She whispered a few words, her voice thin like wind. "Kindness calls back. Tomorrow you will see the truth." Elias blinked, unsure what she meant, but before he could ask, a sudden gust of sand blew across the desert, and the old woman vanished, not walking away, not running. She simply disappeared into the dust, as if her body was made of smoke. Elias stood frozen, watching the empty space where she had been sitting. He touched the ground, touched his face, trying to understand what he had seen. Nothing made sense. The desert went silent again. Only the sound of distant wind moved across the land. He returned to his small metal shelter as the sky darkened. Night on Ravenine was always dangerous. Strange creatures hunted in the dark, and the temperature fell like ice. Elias locked the door of his shelter and sat on the cold floor. His mind kept replaying the woman's voice. "Kindness calls back. Tomorrow you will see the truth." What truth? Elias whispered to himself. He had only given her water, nothing else. But something in his heart felt heavy, like he had stepped into a story much bigger than him. Late in the night, the ground began to shake, softly. At first, Elias thought it was normal. The desert sometimes trembled during cold storms. But this time, the shaking came with faint whispers, soft voices, not human, drifting outside the shelter like echoes of children. Elias stood and slowly walked to the door. He pressed his ear to the metal. He could hear footsteps, small ones moving in circles around the shelter. Then he saw a glow under the door. A soft blue light passing back and forth. His heart beat louder. No creature of the desert moved like that. No creature carried light. Something was out there. Something watching him. The voices grew a little louder, almost like giggles. But the giggles did not sound playful. They sounded old, and curious. Elias took a deep breath and unlocked the door. He told himself he had to face whatever was waiting outside. He pushed the door open slowly, letting the cold night wind rush in. At first, he saw only darkness. Then he looked down at the sand and froze. There were footprints, glowing blue footprints leading from the desert directly to his door. Small footprints, too small for adults, too many for 1 or 2 children. And then, from the shadows, 5 small shapes stepped forward, their eyes shining like stars, and one of them whispered, "Grandmother sent us." Elias stood in the doorway of his shelter, staring at the 5 small figures standing outside. The cold wind of ravine blew across the desert. But the children did not shiver. Their bodies gave off a soft blue light, like the glow of deep ocean waves at night. They looked young, maybe 10 or 11 in human years, but their eyes were full of something older, something ancient. One of them stepped forward. A girl with silver patterns running across her skin. She tilted her head and spoke in a calm voice. "Grandmother sent us." The words made Elias step back in shock. He had seen only one grandmother yesterday, the old alien woman at the dried well, but these children looked nothing like her. She had been weak and dying. They were glowing with power and life. Her voice had been fragile. There sounded clear and echoing, like wind passing through crystal. Elias swallowed hard. "I don't understand," he said. "I only gave her water, a second child, taller than the others." Shook his head slowly. "No," he said, "you gave hope." The children exchanged looks, as if silently agreeing on something. The taller boy lifted his hand and pointed at Elias. "Grandmother told us to protect you." Elias blinked, confused. "Protect me from what?" Before any of them answered, the ground trembled again, stronger than last night. The children all looked toward the horizon at the exact same moment. As if they shared one mind, a shadow stretched across the desert sky as something massive moved through the clouds. Elias felt his stomach twist. "What is that?" he asked. The youngest child, a boy with glowing freckles, whispered, "Raiders." The word carried fear, even though his voice stayed calm. The taller boy explained, "They hunt grandmother's kind." "They feel no mercy," added the silver-patterned girl. "They destroy anyone who helps us," said another child with a voice like whispering sand. Elias felt cold, even though the night was warm. "So they are coming for me?" he asked. The 5 children nodded slowly. One of them stepped closer and touched Elias's arm. Her fingers were warm, almost hot, like they carried a small sun. "Grandmother saw your heart," she said. "You gave water even when you had almost none left. That act changed everything," said the tall boy. "You became part of our story." Elias exhaled sharply. "I didn't ask for any story," he said. "I just helped someone who needed help." The children smiled gently, as if they understood something he didn't. "That is why she chose you," said the youngest. "Only humans do that." The sky thundered suddenly, glowing red for a moment as a large ship broke through the clouds. The children stood in front of Elias, forming a protective circle around him. Their bodies glowed brighter, their eyes sharp and focused. The tall boy whispered, "They found us faster than we thought." Elias stepped back into his shelter, grabbing his small tool knife, the only thing he had to defend himself. He felt foolish holding it, knowing it was useless. The children watched him quietly. "You cannot fight them like that," the silver-patterned girl said gently. "We will help you." "How?" Elias asked. He didn't want to sound afraid, but his voice shook anyway. The 5 children reached out and held each other's hands, forming a star-shaped circle. They closed their eyes, and the air around them began to vibrate. Soft humming filled the night, rising like a song carried by the wind. The glow from their bodies grew brighter, stretching outward like wings made of light. Elias stepped back, amazed. "What are you doing?" "Grandmother left us a piece of her power," the tall boy said, eyes still closed. "And she told us to share it with you." The sand around them lifted into the air as if gravity had loosened its grip. The wind spun in circles, and the humming grew louder, vibrating through Elias's bones. He felt a warm pressure on his chest, a heartbeat that wasn't his own. The children spoke together in one voice. "You gave life. Now life returns to you." A beam of soft golden light shot toward Elias, wrapping around him like warm water. His vision blurred, his heart raced, and the world spun. He fell to his knees, gasping. He felt stronger, faster, sharper, but also scared. Humans were not meant for this kind of power. He could feel it pushing against his body. Trying to reshape something inside him, the silver-patterned girl opened her eyes. "We must hurry," she said. "The raiders are almost here." Elias stood slowly, feeling the new energy inside him like a storm waiting to break. "What do I do now?" he whispered. The tall boy pointed at the sky, where the raider ship descended like a giant metal beast. "You survive," he said, "and we help you." The ship roared as it landed, shaking the ground beneath them. Elias took a deep breath. He did not feel like a hero, but the children were looking at him with trust, and he knew the raiders would not stop. Not now, not ever. The night sky erupted with red lights as the first raider soldiers stepped out, and Elias realized the old woman had been right. "Tomorrow you will see the truth," she had said, and tomorrow had come with fire, shadows, and destiny. The ground shook like a living creature waking from sleep. Elias felt the vibrations travel up his legs and into his chest. The children stood around him, their glowing bodies forming a circle of blue light. Outside, the giant raider ship lowered itself onto the desert floor, its engines screaming like metal beasts hungry for blood. Elias had heard about raiders before, but only in stories told by travelers, stories of planets burning, of villagers taken, of people who vanished and were never seen again. Now he stood face to face with that nightmare. He wasn't a soldier, he wasn't a fighter, he had only wanted to fix his rover and go home, but fate had pulled him into something much bigger. The tall boy, the eldest of the 5 alien children, turned to Elias with calm eyes. "Do not be afraid," he said. "You carry grandmother's blessing now." Elias did not feel blessed. He felt like he was standing on the edge of a cliff with fire behind him and darkness ahead. But the children looked so sure, so confident. Their trust was the only thing keeping him steady. The giant door of the raider ship opened with a loud hiss. A wave of hot air and red smoke poured out. From within the smoke, tall armored figures stepped out, their bodies covered in metal plates, their helmets shaped like skulls. Each one carried a weapon glowing with cruel red energy. Elias stepped back without thinking. The eldest child placed a gentle hand on his arm. "They can smell fear," he whispered, "but they cannot smell courage." Elias almost laughed. He didn't feel courageous at all, but the girl with silver patterns on her skin smiled softly and said, "You helped grandmother without fear of death. That is courage," added the youngest boy. The raiders marched forward in perfect lines. One of them stopped when he reached the glowing footprints in the sand left by the children. He bent down, touched the ground, then stood up quickly. "They're here," he growled. "Find them." His voice was like stone cracking, deep and cruel. He raised his weapon toward Elias's shelter. Elias felt his heart stop for a moment, but before he could panic, the children lifted their hands and formed a wall of shimmering blue light in front of him. The raider fired. The red bolt struck the barrier and exploded into sparks, lighting the desert for a second. Elias gasped. The children did not move. Their barrier held strong. Glowing brighter with each hit, another raider stepped forward and shouted, "Human, you helped the elder. Hand over the children and maybe you will die quickly." Elias felt something hot inside him, anger, sharp and unexpected. He stepped forward from behind the children. "I didn't help anyone for your permission," Elias shouted. "I won't give them to you." The raiders laughed, a harsh, metallic sound. "You think you can fight us?" One said, "You are only human," said another. Before Elias could answer, the tall boy stepped beside him. "He is human," the boy said, "but he carries something you fear." The raiders hesitated. Fear, real fear, flickered in their posture. Humans were known for bravery and stubbornness, but not for power. So what had changed? The eldest child raised his hand. A sphere of white-blue energy formed around Elias. Grandmother saw something in him. The boy said, "She said the universe will remember this moment." The silver-patterned girl stepped forward and pointed at the raiders. "Your hunt ends tonight," she said. "Leave now." The raiders lifted their weapons. "You cannot threaten us, little ones," their leader shouted. "We will burn this land until nothing remains." At that moment, the sky above them cracked with thunder. Not natural thunder, thunder that came from the power building inside Elias. The energy the children had given him rose like a storm, waking from sleep. His hands began to glow, his heartbeat sounded louder, and his vision sharpened until he could see every grain of sand. Elias staggered. "What's happening to me?" he whispered. "You are awakening," the eldest child said. "Do not fight it. added the youngest. It will guide you, said the girl. The raiders moved forward again, this time running. Their heavy boots shook the ground, their weapons glowed brighter, ready to kill. Elias stepped in front of the children, his hands lifted on their own. A beam of soft golden light erupted from his palms and shot across the desert. The raiders jumped back, shocked, stumbling in the sand. What is that? One shouted, "He's not supposed to have power." Another yelled, "He's human." But Elias didn't know either. He only knew that the light felt warm, familiar, alive, like the old woman's voice. The power vibrated inside him, begging to be used. For a moment he felt afraid of himself, but then he looked back at the children. They were smiling at him, proud, trusting, fearless. Elias turned back to the raiders. "I'm done running," he said. "If you want them, you go through me." The raiders charged. Elias braced himself. The children spread out beside him like glowing stars preparing for battle, and the desert of Ravnin prepared to witness the start of something no one had seen before, a human standing against an army, not with armor, not with weapons, but with the power of kindness, and a destiny born from a single sip of water. The moment the raiders charged, the desert air crackled with energy. Elias felt the golden power inside him pulse like a second heartbeat. It pushed through his body, warming his skin, sharpening his senses, filling him with a strength he had never known. He could hear the footsteps of every raider, the whisper of their armor, the hum of their weapons. Everything around him moved in slow motion, as if the world had slowed down just for him. The eldest child stepped beside him, calm and steady. "Do not be afraid," the boy said softly. "The power will not harm you if you accept it," but Elias wasn't sure he could. His hands trembled as light swirled around them, glowing brighter with each breath he took. "What if I lose control?" Elias whispered. "You won't." The silver-patterned girl said, "Grandmother chose you. She never chooses wrong." The raiders reached them, their weapons raised, red light flickering like angry fire. The leader swung his blade at Elias. Elias moved before he even thought. His body reacted on its own, faster than any human should move. He raised his arm, and golden energy blasted outward, creating a shield that caught the raider's strike and threw him backward into the sand. The children smiled. "You see," I said, "the youngest boy, you and the power understand each other." Elias stared at his hands in shock. He didn't feel like himself anymore. He felt like someone older, stronger, someone who had waited a long time to wake up. The raiders regrouped, surprised but not afraid. Their leader roared, "Take him, he is worth more than the elder." They charged again, faster, more desperate. Their weapons fired beams of red energy that cut through the darkness like burning lines. The children stepped forward together. They lifted their hands, and each one created a different color of light: blue, white, violet, green, and silver. The 5 lights spun in circles and formed a protective bubble around Elias. The beams struck it and dissolved into sparks. Elias felt another surge of golden warmth rise through him. He didn't know how to use the power, but the power knew how to use him. His feet moved across the sand with surprising stability. He leaped forward, and for the first time in his life, he did not feel the weight of gravity. He moved like the wind, light and fast. He struck the ground with his fist. A wave of golden force shot outward, throwing several raiders into the air. The sand rose in a circle, spinning like a storm around him. The children watched with amazement. "Humans are incredible," whispered the youngest. But something else was happening inside Elias. Along with the power, he felt a presence, a voice, warm and familiar. "Do not fear," it whispered inside his mind. "You are not alone." Elias froze. He knew that voice. It was the old woman. "The elder, are you alive?" Elias asked inside his mind. "I am part of the power you carry," her voice answered. "I left a piece of my spirit with my grandchildren. And now with you." Elias felt a strange peace inside him, even with raiders closing in. "Why me?" he asked. "Because kindness is the strongest force in the universe," she said, "and only a heart like yours can carry this power without breaking." Another group of raiders attacked. Elias turned, barely thinking. Energy flowed from his hands like living light, forming golden shapes that moved with him. Shields, blasts, waves, all responding to his instinct. Not training, he didn't understand it. He simply acted, and the power obeyed. But with every use, he felt a pressure building inside his chest. A reminder that humans were not meant to hold such energy for long. The elder's voice spoke again. "Your strength grows, but your body is still learning. Learn fast," Elias muttered. Feeling the weight inside him increase. "We are running out of time." The silver-patterned girl rushed to his side. "Elias, more raiders are coming." Her voice trembled not from fear, but urgency. "They brought a commander," the tall boy added quietly. Elias looked toward the raider ship. A massive armored figure stepped out. Taller than the others, his armor glowing dark red with symbols carved across it. The commander lifted his weapon, a massive spear crackling with lightning. His helmet turned toward Elias. "So," he growled. The human awakens. He stomped forward, each step shaking the sand. "You are not worthy of elder power," he snarled. "You are nothing but a soft creature made of fear." Elias felt anger burn inside him, not just for himself but for the children the raiders hunted. For the elder who only wanted peace, for the innocent worlds the raiders had destroyed. He stepped forward, golden light rising around him like flames. "I'm done being afraid," Elias said. "If you want the children, you have to go through me." The desert fell silent for one breath. Then the commander roared and charged, lightning clashing with golden fire, and Elias, a simple human, stood ready to face a monster, with courage not born from power, but from kindness. The real battle had begun, and the universe would remember this moment.